Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Wake Up Mission Show with your host, Shalene Nightingale and Randy Dees.
Where is the revolution? Where is our solution? The time to wake up is here and now. Time for revolution.
Well, we survived. It's May Day Monday. Randy, it's now September, and we survived all the madness. We weren't supposed to be here according to end time predictions. Shemitah and the blood moons and everything else. I'm not saying we survived politically. We had huge hits and also economic hits, but we're still here. So will there be an October surprise instead? Well, we wait with bated breath. I didn't really say that well, but
have you been drinking?
You kind of have to, I guess, these days, right? To survive what we're going through. It's like a freight train happening, and that's what May Day Mondays are for. This is the day we sound the alarm, and normally we give all of our hot headline news, May Day news, in the first hour with our guest in the second hour, but we're reversing things today because Randy and I are rebels. We're just like the founding fathers. We're just like Jesus. They were all labeled rebels, and so are we. We don't follow rules. So I think this is a great way to absolutely start the week. So stay tuned for the second hour. We've got updates. Remember, I told all of you to do your research and homework on the Oregon shooter, and I hope you did. I know I did. Lots of updates on that. And as a matter of fact, because of the latest shooting and all the historic rates that we've been seeing them under the Obama, shall we say, regime, as Randy gets settled over there with his mic and settles in so that we can discuss all this with Cher. But tomorrow, because of all of this, on Truth Tuesday, we're actually going to take up a couple of hours. For sure, in the first hour, we're going to be covering false flag operations, tying it to the Second Amendment, and we'll have more headlines for you. On Wednesday, Hal Shurtleff asked to be back on our show. As you all know, he runs the Constitution Camp, very Constitution-minded. We're honored to have him back on the show. So that's on Wednesday. And then, of course, Thursday, Tree of Liberty Thursday. So stay tuned for the second hour for our headlines and updates on the Oregon. But in the first hour, we have somebody, and I mean this, I have a great amount of respect for her. I read her articles. You can too. Various different publications online. I usually go read her on Canada Free Press, which is one of my absolute favorite sources to find real news. I met her. She's a longtime syndicated columnist, and I met her during my own campaign, one of my absolute favorite interviews. And you will all love it because guess what? The progressives, collectivists, New World Order, they cannot stand her. That's always a good sign. She's a beautiful, she's such a lovely woman, Christian woman. You can also find her. She has a weekly slot on the Roth Show that you can also hear her. The beautiful, lovely, talented Sher Zieve. Cher, thank you so much because I know what a busy lady you are, and here you are joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. My gosh, I'm glad I'm sitting down. My head has grown at least another meter.
Well, wow. You are a humble woman, but it's all the truth. I mean, since we met,
of course, but no,
following you, it's funny the attacks you get from the progressives, the communists, call them whatever you want. And there's one. I
call them the Luciferian left.
Oh, Luciferian left. Oh, that's very good. I try not to use left-right, though, a lot because, it really is a false paradigm. that they like to use against us to divide us. But you're absolutely right. They're Luciferians. And there's one site in particular, Right Wing Watch, which is tied into People for the American Way. It's really one and the same.
Oh, yeah. I'm all over that. I know. They
don't like you
They
at
blast
all.
me on a regular basis on both of those.
Yeah, they really do. So, but they are Luciferian. Geez, since you and I, well, you know what? Before the show, let's continue that for just a second. Before the show, you were telling us you've got helicopters over your head.
I know. They're trying to find some way to intimidate me. I think they wanted me to come out of my my house. I live in a townhome complex. And this was just so interesting, and this happened maybe 2 months ago. Might have been a little longer, but no, probably right around 2 months ago. A helicopter, all of a sudden we heard this sound, and my cats, of course, sparked up, and they was, what in the world's going on? And then the entire house started shaking. Well, I could feel there was a helicopter directly over, it was planted right over my unit. Wow. And it was in place, you know. And same thing happened to a friend of mine who lives in Utah. And we're very good. We've known each other since high school. But anyway, because of her and her husband's very conservative activities, they've had problems with helicopters too, and they're Army. Wow. And it was planted over my house, and the next day I'd asked a couple of the neighbors, "Did you feel that?" Because it shook my whole house. And they said, "Yes, we did." And what in the world was that? And I said, "Well, I think it's time to come clean on a couple of things." They know that I'm a columnist, but they had no idea quite how exciting my little life is with fighting off the leftists or just the Luciferians, shall we say. So it's been kind of interesting. Plus, they cut me off they muted me on a call-in on a talk show that I had done. I was being interviewed the other night on Erskine Overnight, and he couldn't hear me, but thankfully it's all taped. So I called back in again and said, "Well, here's what happened." I explained it to him, so we redid that whole segment. They just like to screw with me.
Yeah, and if people don't think this happens, as you know, you witnessed the attacks I endured during the campaign. I mean, it does happen. I remember being stalked in particular, and I'm not going to give the guy any special attention on our show, so I'm not going to say his name. But one man in particular who I later found out, when people think, by the way, it's just the Democrat Party that does it, no. The neocons do as well. And this particular individual is a known spy who's always, whenever a Republican is in the White House, he's padded under the agricultural department, and he used to stalk me. I cannot tell you how many campaign events he stalked me at. He would take pictures with, he had this really funky pen that took pictures, recording, hats. One time he was in a van that he didn't think we would see him. That particular time we finally had it, and my campaign manager said, "I'm done with this." And she called the sheriffs, and they did come and descended upon him, and of course he was let go. But so for anybody to think it doesn't happen, I'm telling you right now, it does happen. And
it does.
Yeah. And what does that say about our government? And what does that say about where we are today?
Well, unfortunately, it says what I predicted in October of 2008 when I wrote my column, is the United States ready for an American Stalin, referring to Obama. And unfortunately, what I predicted in that column has all come true.
Some of the things you've talked about, I know here recently, has been his overtaking of the FCC, Christian homeschoolers being, confronted in their own homes, his bypassing of Congress. I mean, I looked it up. He doesn't have the most historical amount of executive, quote-unquote, orders, but he certainly has the most communist of them all.
Totally unconstitutional, everything that he does.
Yeah, the changing of the military, the Muslim increase so-called refugees, right?
His
as
friends.
he turns away the Christian refugees. And you talked about this recently in an article. In fact, it puts you on the radar of one such somebody who's on our side who called you one gutsy lady. But the truth has to be, but the truth has to be told. So, Sher, in particular, and I wanted to ask you this because this is something we've never discussed. Obama's a Muslim on jihad
when he's not worshiping himself.
Right. Do you think he's Muslim? Do you think he's just a Luciferian? Who is really Obama?
Well, and that's a great question. I personally think he's Luciferian, but then again, the worship of Allah is the worship of Lucifer. And not too many people, I've written about this, but not too many people are aware of the fact that Lucifer, Muhammad, interchangeable perhaps, but pardon?
I said, yeah, right, correct.
Okay, that Muhammad chose the biggest and baddest pagan god of the area one of the areas that he had conquered. And that god was Baal. Well, Baal, translated into Arabic, is Allah.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't even know that.
Yep, they worship Baal, who is Lucifer. Same thing.
That's
Same
like
guy. And they worship the other guy.
That's like the golden calf, right? Something.
Yes, sir. Randy, you have got it. And that's what when they go away from the worship of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they start they start these stupid I can't figure it out. You'd think that people would learn, and it's not just the Hebrews that did this. I mean, it's Christians too. They'll worship. Listen, you see some of these Christian churches, and they are begging for a golden calf.
Yeah. Yeah,
because they don't want to. They don't want to have to follow the rules. They think that God's rules are too difficult, which is absolutely asinine, in my opinion.
Sure, there's an interesting letters out there. The Albert Pike letters. We've talked about it on the show before. Now, some people say those letters were definitely not written by him, and there's many signs, clues that he did not. Now, I don't think he was any type of prophet. I think he was, an evil Luciferian himself. But he is the individual who allegedly changed Freemasonry to become the worshiping of Satan it is today. Regardless, somebody wrote these letters. And these letters, they're the 3 World War letters, Sher. And the third one definitely talks about a third world war where Islam is going to be used to be advanced in the entire world.
Absolutely.
Only to inevitably
Islam is the beast.
I agree with you. But according to the Albert Pike letters, they even want to eventually get rid of Muslims so that everybody just, instead of saying, Allah, just says, Satan. So
and the United States is already there. I mean, if anybody, what was it last year that Katy Perry did? Good grief. That was 2013 and 14 that she did 2 years back to back. Or maybe it was last year where it was 2 things. One, the Super Bowl, and prior to that, the Grammy, where it was all Satan worship.
And and she comes from a Christian family. She used to be
pastor.
A Christian.
Her father's a pastor.
Yeah, right. How did this happen?
He has said she is a practicing witch, and he's disowned her.
Oh my God! Oh, I didn't know this. See, I don't really.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Wow. Well,
family
that
is just almost destroyed by. But then again, you wonder how it happened. But hey, Satan calls his own just as the Lord does.
And
that's what's happening today, in my opinion.
Because we see so many besides Katy Perry, there's also been, of course, Miley Cyrus and Lady Gaga, all of them with Christian backgrounds who, publicly all at some point, even Madonna publicly at some point said, I love Jesus. And now all of them, Beyonce, another one from a Christian home. How does this happen? How do they get these, Whitney Houston, another one, how do they get all these individuals to turn away from Jesus? It's like they almost transform into to people that they were not. They're like clones of their former selves. How is the New World Order? How do they do this?
And that's again another excellent question. The way that I view it is that they had never really accepted God as God to begin with, because the thing is that the other guy cannot get in when there is a strong presence of God in that particular soul. Satan can't get in there. Just can't.
Yeah.
But if and I've witnessed this. I witnessed this with somebody I loved very much. And he did not he was an agnostic. And I saw there was a transformation there because Satan got in there. And just the way it is. If you're not, these are the days. It probably maybe 3 or 4 decades ago, you weren't going to see this. There'd be a chance, and if you did let Satan in, by golly, you could get rid of him, right? Most people could. Nowadays, and I do firmly believe we are in the end times. I think all the signs are there that Yeshua had told us about. And and he specifically said, all these things are going to happen before I come, and they have to happen before I come.
And I agree with you. In fact, even Billy Graham, as he's unfortunately in his aging years, probably on his his deathbed.
Oh my gosh, he's 97.
Yeah,
what
he's
a
97.
life he's had.
Yeah, he
what
really
an
has.
amazing man.
Amazing man, and it's so good to see his son just being very vocal, and he just, I'm so proud of Franklin.
I'm proud of Franklin now. I think he has some issues earlier on, but by golly, he has really come back. He has come back
really,
to God.
really has. But even Billy Graham wrote, we are in the end zone, and he's never said that. He said we are definitely now in the end zone.
And you're hearing it from Jewish rabbis too. Orthodox, you're hearing the same thing.
This is true. So what should people of faith, do? I know we could all go read our Bible, but it just seems like we feel alone. Politically, nothing's going our way. Obviously, with, even with the recent justice, Supreme Court justice legislating from the bench when it comes to marriage.
I know. See, all these masks are coming off, aren't they?
Yes.
And some of them are literally throwing them to the ground and saying, "This is who I really am." Ha ha ha.
Yes. So what do we do? Do we all go, run into the, for the hills, into the mountains and retreat? Do we still keep fighting?
Well, that kind of sounds good to me, and I've been telling God that really I deserve R&R, and I've been explaining it to him. And but that's really probably not it. I think that's good. I kind of like just get some breathing room and sort of be up there but right now we do what Yeshua told us to do, which is to occupy until he returns. Now, does occupy just mean sit around? Maybe watch TV and and have some good food and play with the animals and have friends over. No. Occupy is also telling people about the Lord and telling people that these are the times, folks. These are the ones, and here's everything that I can tell you about it to prove it to you, and it's all scriptural. And it's been there, the Bible was started being written over 6,000 years ago.
Yeah. So,
and this everything that they said was going to happen, unless you think it's time travel, And that's okay too, because God controls time, and where He normally is, it's non-space and time anyway.
Right. Right.
So it was all created. And I mean, you can even, people, if you want, they want to look at it maybe in a more contemporary mode. This is the Matrix.
Oh yes. I just even recently wrote something and said that, get out of the Matrix. So I'm with you on that. And just looking at the world leaders right now, with that Pope. Oh my goodness. And Obama and Putin, who's so radically different than what we have. It's like Russia.
Listen, they are really good friends. People who think they're fighting each other, give me a break. Obama and Putin have been working together since before Obama was elected or selected to the White House.
Oh, do tell, because it seems to me, based on, and I don't watch CNN and Fox. I just don't. I get mine from alternative sources, like reading, for example, what you write. But it seems to me that Putin seems to love his country and his people. But you're saying no, that they're working in conjunction, good cop, bad cop, and No,
I think Putin does love his country. I think that maybe is the only thing that he might love. However, Obama hates the United States, and what he has been doing since he took over our White House, which, by the way, if you'll recall, the other day he got very irritated and said, "You don't talk that way in my house," to one of the reporters.
Yes, I saw that.
It's his house now. It's not the people's house.
Right.
We the peons.
Right.
But in any event, these are the times, and he and Putin have been. Remember that tape, that open mic moment?
Yes. Yes.
Tell Vlad to wait until after the elections, because I'll have more flexibility then. He was not just talking about our nuclear weapons, which he's pretty much decimated. He was talking about the whole thing. Because and bear in mind, Obama was the one who had training missions with both Russia here in the United States, right? Our soldiers were training with our enemy, and Obama brought them into the country, and a lot of them are still in Texas. In fact, most of them have not left. And he did the same thing with China, and the Chinese soldiers have not left Hawaii.
Oh, my gosh.
So we have a totally open southern border where everybody under the sun's coming in. And Russia now is flying over, and they are threatening the California coast, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah, you should, and hopefully, y'all have been getting some news on that out there. Of course, California is that's where I grew up. So that's real spooky.
Yeah,
I understand. It's just totally destroyed, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful when I was there, when I was growing up. But in any event, and Obama's doing nothing about the flyovers and the threatening and the Russian submarines, which are in our territorial waters. Listen, all this is a setup. This is Red Dawn on steroids.
Yes.
And Obama is saying, this is what I am going to do to destroy this country once and for all, so it can never come back. And everything is in place, including his personal police force. And that information has been coming out in the last few weeks, the last couple of weeks.
And what is his personal police force?
He has gone in. He's taking over police forces now.
Yes.
The city police forces. And this business about Jade Helm, which really got to be, it had to be played down because everybody became aware of it and aware of their true intentions.
Right.
To the point that not only in Texas, and God bless Greg Abbott, not only in Texas, and Greg said, we're not going to do this. This sounds fishy to me, too. This smells fishy to me. So he called out the state what was it, Guard, or it wasn't the National Guard, but it was the state. It's another group that they've gotten, the state militia. And he said, you're going to keep track of them, and if anything happens, and he sent out, and they announced this on television stations in Texas. And I live on the border of Texas and New Mexico, so I get both. I get stations from both New Mexico and Texas as far as local news. So anyway, what he did was the word went out, the telephone numbers were there, the emails, and that is, if you see anything suspicious, I want you to call immediately. And other states did the same thing. Well, do you remember that with Jade Helm, they started out and said, we're going to do this in 7 states.
Right, exactly.
Then it expanded
Texas being
to 10.
hostile.
Then it was in the 20s. Then it was in the 30s. Eventually, it was all 50 states.
Oh, I didn't even know
Jade
that.
Helm
Wow.
was in. And what has happened is, if you'll also recall, they had a lot of plainclothes people who were acting as spies, who were and they even said they were going to do this, who were infiltrated, and they said they were going to do it because some of their secret documents were exposed. So some very entrepreneurial soul got in there and actually got a hold of them and let everybody know. So, but all of these people who were supposed to infiltrate are still there. Well, Jade Helm really didn't go away. They're waiting for the orders.
We were wondering, Randy and I, because we were one of the individuals. The first place I read it was actually Dave Hodges, whose show I've been on before. I'm sure you have as well. And so
no, actually I haven't. That was Dave, but I know who he is.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I said, I'm going to pay attention to this, and we discussed it on the show. But we also here a couple of weeks ago, we said what happened with Jade Helm, and we thought one of the points that because too many of us knew. But you're saying it hasn't gone away. What do you think is going to happen next then?
Well, I think it's going to be this was really interesting, and I have been writing this over and over again. That and I think I may have been the first or one of the probably Eric Rush and I were the first two who started writing about the fact if Obama gets in office, if he's elected to the presidency of the United States, everything, and what I'd written in that October 2008 column was everything will be in place, all the people that he needs, because they're all going to come in. There's going to be a huge entourage that come in with Obama, and I had warned everything is going to be in place for him to remain there indefinitely.
I was just going to ask you, it's interesting you say that, because one thing, Obama himself just last week after this whole obviously false flag operation in Oregon event, he said something that was eerie. He said people just want to keep their guns because they think I'm going to stay in office.
There you go. Absolutely. When he said that, I said, and I knew, because I had been told by one of my editors. Some of the editors out there know exactly who requests columns for different writers. And just as George Bush did with mine, I was amazed. I had no idea. But the Obama White House does too. And so, and I've been writing it for quite a while. And when he laughs and says something like that, every single time in the past, it's come to pass.
Yes, exactly. And that, in fact, today on May Day Monday, I was going to mention that.
He's telling exactly what he's going to do, and he's laughing at the stupid Americans because he knows it's going to do them, and they're too stupid to realize what's going to happen to them. That's what he's saying.
Right. I saw that also fairly recently. There was something else that came from his administration, and I don't think it was his words, but it definitely came from his administration that if a war happens, if too much is going on, there's no way that he can leave the White House, and that was also fairly recently.
He has no intention of leaving. Well, look what he's done. every single governmental department that he is running, and who, by the way, he has increased their salaries markedly since he's come in, so they owe him. Every single one, from the Forest Service, from the U.S. Forest Service to through the IRS, and to, I can't remember what this other, it was, almost had it. Shoot, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But it's just an innocuous little department. He has ordered, remember all of those billions of bullets of ammo, the hollow points that were being ordered? Okay.
Yes.
All of these government departments are now fully armed with AK-47s and other automatic weaponry, and they all have plenty of bullets. They're hollow point, which is only to kill people, because I don't know if you're a hunter at all, if you've ever hunted, you don't shoot an animal with hollow point because it's going to explode the animal, and all of the guts will explode inside, and it kills the meat.
Right.
It's only for humans. And what happens is you shoot a human with that, and bam, they explode. Okay? They're huge.
And Sher, there's so many individuals out there that even whether they're Republicans or not, that don't believe this. They think it's just hype or conspiracy theory. I hear it all the time. So when we report items, so how can we convince people? No, it is not. There's real evidence to prove otherwise.
Well, and the only thing I can say is try to be as logical as possible, because what I've done in some of my columns is say, what would you think if this were to occur? You have a leader in power of a nation, okay, leader of a nation in power, and he has all of his government. Every bit of it is fully armed and trained in SWAT techniques, which Obama has done. They're all fully trained now, and he raises the salaries of all of those people. Okay, then he starts taking over. He starts making laws that go against the laws of that nation by simply rewriting them, and there are other bodies, there are other governmental bodies that are supposed to be working in concert with this particular leader, go along with him and don't even fight for their own survival. And then you have a court system that follows up and also goes against the laws of the land in their rulings. Do you think that individual also announces that he or she plans to nationalize the police forces of that nation? Do you actually think that person ever plans on leaving office?
Now, Sher, there was a lot of individuals, including myself, that thought George Bush Jr. was going to remain in office, and there were a lot of signs towards that direction as well. But that didn't happen, and people will say that. Well, it didn't happen with George Bush. So go ahead. No,
we've got a little bit of a delay.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is it didn't happen with George Bush, and we were all, saying that. So what is going?
See, I wasn't saying that. I didn't see that happening with Bush at all. I saw the Patriot Act, and I thought that was really an issue.
Yes.
But that was all. I didn't see anything else. I didn't see any other signs. And the fact was that Bush, for his faults, and his immigration issue was terrible. He actually, I think that he at one point wanted open borders. Now, he didn't do it. And he didn't do the amnesty. But we knew full well where he stood before we elected him, because he was not shy about that.
No.
However, he never actually did it. But the one thing that George Bush, in my opinion, did was he after 9/11 and whether you believe it was a conspiracy or not, I believe that George Bush was furious. I think he was absolutely furious, and I do not believe he's that good of an actor. The way that when he had talked to all the people and when he was giving, his speeches, when he was actually going out on site, I don't really think he's that good of an actor where he was pulling up emotion that he didn't have.
Yeah.
And he still to this day visits our wounded soldiers, and he does it very quietly.
Mm-hmm.
No pomp and circumstances. He and Laura both. So, I mean, listen, he's got a lot of issues, but he sure was, I think, he was at least 100% better than George H.W., his father.
Oh, his father's demonic.
And, I mean, George H.W.'s New World Order, because, I mean, he said that when he was president.
Right.
That they were going to establish a New World Order, and he said, make no mistakes, we will succeed. Boy, oh boy, did the chills, the cold chills went up and down my spine when I heard that. And so many people think that he lost the election, his second term, because of that tax issue, because the Democrats lied to him, and they were going to pass something, and he kept said read my lips, no new taxes.
Right.
I don't think he lost because of that. I think too many people heard that New World Order speech and said, holy moly, he's as bad, if not worse, than the rest.
I've got to tell you, that was still my teen years, and I remember, and I was not politically awake. In fact, Cher, seriously, and you and I have discussed this before, I would have said I was a socialist at that age. Not that I would have admitted to it or understood that, but looking back, oh, for sure.
Well, you're not going to believe the party that I was a member of when I was a youngster.
Were you a Democrat?
No, I was Peace and Freedom.
Peace and Freedom. There you go.
I registered. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
my ancestors who actually helped found this country are rolling in their grave. I think I could actually hear them. That was during Bobby Kennedy, because I go all the way back there. And it was wild. I mean, it was just crazy. And then I realized within a year, I think, of that was, I don't know where my mind had been, but I grew up a lot in that year.
Well, this is what I think, because when we're that age, we do want freedom. And we're indoctrinated, we're lied to, we watch the media, we realize
we're
what we have.
stupid at that age, Shalene, let's be honest.
Yeah, let's be honest. So we are dragged into the wrong direction thinking that's freedom. That's exactly what I think. So but going back, even when George Bush Sr. said that, and I wasn't politically awake, that even stunned me. I remember questioning that, thinking there's something odd about that, and of course years later I understood that. So, but getting back to Obama, it's eerie to me that all these members of Congress and the Supreme Court go right along with him. Are they really on his side, or have they been bribed? Have they been threatened? What is going on? Because I cannot believe we have so many politicians that are going along with this end game.
I would say more than intimidation or threats. My bet would be that it's bribery, and it's not just, it's with huge amounts of money, yes, but it's also with power. Now, bear in mind, people who go to work for the federal government, the ones who now are go out to be elected into our federal government, into Congress, go there for two things, power and money. And the longer they're there, the more power they want or feel they need, and the more money they feel they want or need. That's simply the way that it works, unfortunately. And it's Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
The Republicans, we call them rhinos, and the rhinos, and it used to be way back when, that was even before I was voting, when I was still a kid, they called it the Rockefeller wing, because the Rockefellers used to be part of the Republican Party.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were just Democrats.
Yep. Nelson
Rockefeller,
you betcha. And and Nelson Rockefeller was put in there. In fact, he was a senator and from New York, and he was in there specifically to turn the Republican Party to the left. Well, it's never during Reagan. They went underground because there was no way they could do anything. With when Ronald Reagan was in office. Bless his heart. I wish, and I'm one of those that said, "Boy, I wish we had another Reagan." But in any event, what happened was that you had the left wing, the leftist wing, or the Marxist wing. Let's call it what it is.
Right.
You've got most of the Republican Party, unfortunately, in the GOP now. Most of them are Marxists.
Yes.
And just the same as the Democrats. McConnell, I would say, is definitely a Marxist.
Gosh. Yes.
Boehner was a Marxist, and Boehner
absolutely.
just decided, the hell with it, I'm going off, and I can't drink as much in this position anyway, so I want to go home, and I just get my bottle and go out to the golf course, and kick, hit some balls. Hey, that's what they do now, and they don't really care. They have lost their souls. They really have. Washington, D.C. is probably equally as, if not more corrupt than all of the other corrupt nations on the planet.
Wow.
And it didn't take very long for it to get there. When Obama came in, they realized this guy's going to let us do whatever we want, and we can steal, we can pillage, we can plunder, we can take everything away from these stupid Americans and set up our feudal society, which is precisely what is happening now. Do you realize that there 1/3 of the population of this country is now unemployed?
Yes.
Those are the new figures. 106 million people are unemployed in this country. And that is of the total population. I mean, and that number would include, because ostensibly we've got about 300 million people in the country, in the United States. But that's all ages, and many of them are not even working age, or they've gone beyond working age, which means that's even a greater population, Shalene. Horrible. And Obama is proud of himself. He is so terribly proud of what he's done. And people say, why is he still smiling? I still even hear that now. I said, because he's not going anywhere, and he's accomplishing everything he was hired to accomplish. And I don't mean hired by the American people.
Right.
I mean hired by his real masters.
Right. And
because they had to destroy this country before they could destroy the world.
Well,
and who are his real masters?
Gosh. We can say Saudi Arabia did a lot as far as contributing, but there is a group of people in this on this planet who you wouldn't even know their last names.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the ones who are working to control everything. And people have asked, well, George Soros, he's one of the biggies. I said, George Soros is one of their mouthpieces, not to be considered an attorney, but he's one of their front men who is out there working to transform the entire planet to go to the other guy.
Now, is this the
And when I say they're Luciferian, Shalene, I mean they're Luciferian. There have been from the beginnings of Obama being in office, including a former campaign manager for Hillary Clinton who died under mysterious circumstances. I realize how conspiracy theory this is sounding, but this is not theoretical. The guy actually died, and he had reported prior to that there were actual Luciferian services going on
Oh my God.
inside the Oval Office.
Oh my God.
Yep. So
wow.
and it's amazing that he lived that long, and after he spilled the beans, and somehow I think it was a month or so later, that was it, he was gone.
Oh my God,
So,
Cher. So
these are stories that were actually out there, and now they've been removed. And Google now has been going through and removing so much information.
Yeah. I noticed that.
I mean, they removed the whole thing
day.
about Van Jones when and there was a video out there, and I had it included with a number of my columns for people to see, and a lot of people saw it before Google removed it. But when he was at a high school, and I think it was in Texas. He was at a high school.
Yeah. I saw that one.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do. And
he had said one of the kids asked him, well, what does Obama plan to do after he's finished being president? And Van Jones got this look. It was just so bizarre. It was like his face took on, this glow, and he said, I think he will be president of the world. And I mean, it was like that. It was just, my
I remember
gosh.
it. It was eerie. Yeah,
and they removed that after I included it in the in the second column. It was removed.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Oh,
and last week I was doing some research for the show, information I knew was out there because I had read it or seen it before, and I couldn't find it. So you're right, Google is removing quite a bit of information.
Oh yeah, they absolutely are.
Because he's they're part of that too. I mean, everything just seems so controlled. But I want to get back. These individuals, are they that Club of Rome that I've heard about, or is that a completely just different group?
I think so. It's part of that, but these are people that you would never know what their names are. These are multi-trillionaires.
Oh,
I mean, these are people that own huge pieces of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about nations leaders. They're underneath this particular elite group. When I say elite, I mean elite.
And so underneath that, though, you have the Bilderbergs, Club of Rome, the Bohemian Grove, Trilateral Commission, and those all stem from that, correct?
CFR.
All right. One other question. This is so bizarre. I'm sorry, but Randy and I have been getting, at least I know I have. I know Randy and I both have been asked, or people have been sending us things about aliens, and that really it's these aliens at the top, and that the Rockefellers and Rothschilds are aliens. What is the real truth about that? I've seen some pretty crazy videos, and I'm like, okay, that's odd, but I don't believe in aliens. I believe in demons, not aliens. So
okay, let's take a look at Genesis chapter 2.
Okay.
And Genesis chapter 2, if you'll recall, goes into the sons of man marrying the daughters of the earth. I mean, the sons of God.
Right.
Marrying the daughters of the earth. Even the Bible refers to that something, and they are referring to that. I know they are. They're referring to what we would call angels, the bad guys, right? The ones who rebelled against God. But the Bible even tells us that went on. Now, they created a hybrid race. That was what God was working to get rid of with the flood. Remember, they had bastardized humans, and they had the alien race, which they called the Nephilim, or the Nephilim, whatever. And they had a group called the Anunnaki. In the Bible, it says the Anak. Okay, the Anak were the giants, the men of renown.
Right.
That the Bible refers to.
Right.
Well, yes,
true.
and I know many people say that they got rid of all of them during the flood. No. Sorry to kind of screw with people, but you can read what is it? I think it's I was trying to remember if it was Chronicles or Corinthians 13:33. But in that it tells us that and it's just so interesting because when Moses and remember the flood was during the time of Noah, right?
Mhm.
Well, Noah was great-great-grandfather, I think, to Moses. And during the time of Moses, all of a sudden, bam, they were there again. And you read about the Enoch, and that was prior to the Hebrews going in to take over the land that had been promised to them by God.
Mhm.
And they were the Enoch. And remember David fighting Goliath.
Right.
Goliath was a hybrid. He was there.
Right.
You know, and so no, not all of them were gotten rid of. A lot of them were. But there were still some of them that were around, either that or they came back from wherever they were. So we can call them angels, you can call them aliens, you can call them anything you want to, but they are not human. We know they're non-human, but we also know that they could mate with humans and you would get an offspring.
Oh, dear God.
But that's biblical. So, I mean,
it is biblical. It is. You're
yes,
absolutely right. And if we're going to believe part of the Bible, we have to believe all of it. And I think it's just something so out of our comprehension sometimes that you're absolutely right. Because I've seen...
Well, we've been trained to say that,
videos.
Thinking about anybody other than humans is insane and crazy. And why have we been trained that way? Because the quote-unquote they don't want you to know. But the thing is, thank God for God, because it's in the Bible. The Bible talks about it.
I did see, and this one I had a hard time like the others, and you're right. We get so trained by, you're right, that Satan owns this world.
Here's what's okay for you to believe, and here's what's not okay.
Right. But I saw
don't believe your eyes,
right.
Don't believe your ears,
right.
Don't believe your senses, don't believe your logic.
Or you're
but
crazy.
Believe what we're telling you.
Believe what you're telling you, because otherwise you're just a nut. Because
you're just stupid and we'll make fun of you. We'll call you ugly names.
Exactly, which of course I don't care about. You know that. But
I don't either. If I did, I would have been gone a long time ago.
You would have been writing what you write.
I would have quit.
That's for sure. But I've got to say to you, I've seen a lot of videos and I explained it away, just like any good brainwashed individual would. And really, you're right. That's why we're supposed to read God's word every day, which I do.
Because God will tell you. See, God says,
tells us the truth.
Yeah, they're here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I started telling you in Genesis, right at the very beginning. I gave that information to the people who wrote it.
Right. I need to spend more time in the Old Testament.
You can't believe me. Who can you believe? And the answer is you can't believe anybody but God anyway.
You can't believe anybody but God. Because I saw a video, Sher, that I've got to tell you that I was like, I kept rewinding it going, you know what, there's no way to explain this one. And it was a bodyguard of Obama at some event. And this individual captured it on camera. Somebody, and I don't even know how I'd find it again because, I didn't save it. But the individual was so freaked out. And this was a supporter of Obama. This was not somebody who did not support Obama. And according to this guy's writing, I don't even think he believed in God. So he was shocked. And he said, I'm telling you, I didn't doctor this video. I've done nothing. I'm not a Republican. I'm a supporter of Obama, but this is crazy. And it showed this so-called bodyguard of Obama, and as his camera's just going across, the audience, he didn't mean to capture anything. This bodyguard, I kid you not, Cher, it freaked me out. I actually couldn't sleep that night. This man changes. Like you wouldn't have noticed it if you were there, but on video, what was captured, this man transforms into something otherworldly, and I don't know how else to explain it. So
what Obama did?
That's why. No, it wasn't Obama. It was a bodyguard standing right in front of him. Below him.
Oh, okay. One of his handlers.
One of his handlers. It was I have to tell you, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know how you could. I was just as perplexed as the guy who filmed it, or
and
caught it. So
that's why. I know, and
So-
that's why I know who this. I know who and what Obama is.
Is he Satan, or is he?
In my
Antichrist?
opinion, he's the AC, the Antichrist, if you will, and maybe not, or maybe he's the one that's leading in the 12th Imam, whatever you want to call him.
Right.
But and he is. He was raised Muslim.
Yes.
But the interesting thing is that on the 23rd of September. That is the date that Obama scheduled for the Pope to meet with him.
Right.
Bible tells us the false prophet will meet with the new world leader, and then it will usher in, this new religion. But
which
Pope
it is
Francis,
the world religion of global warming. The 2030
except it's
agenda.
the day that they met. It is the day that they met, and both Obama and the Pope knew what the day was. That is, and people, you don't need to be, people say, well, that's a Jewish holiday. No. The Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, is in the Bible. That is the holiest of holy days in the entire Bible. And guess what? All Christians, all Israelis, all people who worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are supposed to keep that holiday, as they are the other holidays and feasts in the Bible. And people say, well, no, it's just for the Jews. No. It wasn't for the Jews when it started out. It was for everybody that worships God, the true God. And that was the day that they opted to meet, the Day of Atonement.
That is
that
true.
was a slap in the face to God.
And we actually, Randy and I did talk about that on the show, even with Jeff Burrick. Remember, Randy,
cool.
when Jeff was
Excellent.
there? Yeah, we did discuss the dates and the Shemitah and everything else. Even Jeff Burrick, even people who are not, quote unquote, Christians, were even talking about what was happening during that time. So awakening, I believe, has happened. Cher, I'm looking at the time. I hate to ask you this. Do you have any more time? Can you go a few more minutes, or do you have to go? I would like to have you on a little bit
No, I can do a few more
longer.
minutes.
Oh, awesome.
I'm thoroughly enjoying this, and it's so good to talk to you again.
So am I. We're going to take just a quick commercial break. Randy, are you okay over there? I know you have questions. We haven't even let you talk. the poor
That's
guy.
okay. I'm just listening.
I've got more questions, and so great. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for the second half of the Wake Up Mission Show.
Here at the Wake Up Mission Show, we want all of our listeners to be debt-free and financially free. We believe a free market system is best for the restoration of liberty. If you are tired of looking for a job in this hopeless market, or if you are struggling to pay your monthly bills, let us help. We have several income opportunities for you, which are tested and proven by our company, the Wake Up Mission LLC. To learn more, go to our website, www.thewakeupmissionshow.com, and click on the Financial Solutions tab.
Welcome back to the Wake Up Mission Show.
As you all know, we normally have our guests on in the second hour, and we had Sher Zieve on today. We are so honored. We've had her on since the first hour, so if you're just tuning in, because we know sometimes some of you listeners tune in to hear our guest, you're blessed because the interview, the questions have been just so fascinating, this whole entire conversation, that we asked Sher if she could stay a little bit longer. So, Sher, thank you so much. I want to talk a little bit about the selection process. This time, it's been really interesting. The last couple of times we were blessed to have people like Chuck Baldwin and Ron Paul, trying to beat the insiders. Obviously, it didn't happen. This time's been Donald Trump. I want to ask you: is he on the inside, or is he just a really great actor and on the inside, or is he truly on the outside?
I think he's irritating a whole lot of people.
Yes.
I think he's irritating a lot of the big boys. Yeah. In fact, I know he is. He's been thinking about running for president since the 80s.
Yes. As a matter of fact.
Since after Ronald Reagan was elected, he's been thinking of running.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, take a listen to this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but take a listen to this. This is from Oprah Winfrey's show 25 years ago.
I remember it.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, but you know,
I love that when she said that. That was back when, oh my gosh, I loved Oprah Winfrey, and that's a whole other question about what happened to her.
Yeah, that was a different time, wasn't it?
She was a different woman. She's not the same woman today. Clearly, they did get to her.
She became a billionaire.
Yes.
As soon as she became a billionaire, she joined the club.
I know. I cried. I saw the transformation, you know, before my eyes, and I just cried.
Look at Glenn Beck.
Her. Yes, there's another one. Yeah. And he became. It was interesting when he agreed not to beat up George Soros anymore and to start turning on the conservatives. Yes.
All of a sudden, he had a TV network, and he was worth in excess of $1 billion.
Yeah.
And that happened almost overnight. So did he sell? Yeah, I think kind of he did. He sort of sold his soul,
and he's been putting
and
down
that's why
Donald
he's been
Trump
so sick. He doesn't understand why he's so sick. I mean, you can't sell your soul and not get sick.
Right.
You really can't.
Exactly.
And it's not a normal sickness. The guy is really ill.
Yeah, no, it's God, you know, trying to get his attention and repent. But back to Donald Trump, because you know that was from 25 years ago. Clearly, he was already sounding presidential. Did he not ever join their club? Was he always on the outside of it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
And he because he would be far wealthier now than he is. He is a brilliant businessman, and he did what his father warned him not to do, which was take on Manhattan.
Well, you know, his message is consistent. If you look at what he was saying about trade deals back then, I mean, look what's happened, you know, NAFTA, CAFTA, the toilet paper deal, most favored trade status to China, and he still has, you know, he didn't evolve and change his position on that. Some other things he did. So that's what I like about the guy, and the fact that he's an outsider and he's rattling cages and pissing people off. I mean, he gets attacked daily, you know, from all sides. And you know, Donald, if you're listening, look under your car before you crank it up.
I'm sure he does. I imagine He has everything swept on a regular basis, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Cher, that's a good point, and I'm wondering why have they not assassinated him yet? Not that I want them to, but why haven't they?
He has got an extraordinary team or teams of bodyguards and security personnel. And he has for years. He has learned how to do it over the years. And I think that probably was something that he was concerned about years ago, because if you'll recall, when he made that statement, that was, I believe that was on the Oprah show. I think that was after Reagan had been shot.
Yeah, that was 1988. So it was 8 years later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, and Donald, it appears to me that Mr. Trump, shouldn't call him because I don't know him, that Mr. Trump absolutely does not jump into anything until he has fully schooled himself on it. And people think that he jumped into the presidency and he hadn't been fully schooled. Yeah, he pretty much had. He might have had a couple of things here and there, but he knows the lay of the land. He knows the lay of the planet. He knows who's in charge. He knows the names of the people. At least some of them,
right?
And he realizes what he's doing. I don't know whether he will continue or not, but he certainly is kind of. This time, he appeared to go into it full bore.
I think he's definitely waking people up, because if you look at the latest polls, not even just on how many people support him, but look at social media, look at the poll about half this country believes government's too big. I think he's he's done what unfortunately Ron Paul could not. I mean, Ron Paul tried, but he just didn't have the charisma or the money or whatever or the big mouth that Donald, and I mean that with respect, that Donald Trump has. But how in the world, if he knows, he also knows he can't get past, no matter where he is in the polls, how in the world can he get past that whole delegate process to where they kicked Ron Paul out? How would he ever get past that, Cher?
I don't know, unless he really does go third party, if he's forced into that. Right now, and people are saying that he's losing. That he's beginning to come down in the polls. I haven't seen that from any legitimate polls. In fact, the legitimate polls that I've seen, including Rasmussen, show that he is continuing to climb.
Exactly.
Fox still doesn't like him, and so Fox News doesn't report the truth anymore.
Right.
They haven't for a long time, but
I mean, it's for eye candy.
Pardon me?
Yeah, Fox News is only good for eye candy. That's the only reason I tune in, and I'll golf for a minute and then go back to whatever I was doing.
That's okay. All those blondes, huh?
Well, it's actually the brunettes.
You what?
It's the brunettes. It's not the blondes.
Oh, they've got some they've got some beautiful women on there. And the thing is, I used to really respect Megyn Kelly.
Oh, I thought she was telling truth. Something.
She was. She was terrific way back when, particularly after 9/11, and something happened to her too, and she's taken a left turn. She took a left-hand turn.
Yes, it's like they.
And
take
I think one of the things
doors.
is that CNN offered her double to triple what she's making at Fox if she'll come to CNN.
Yeah. It's all about the money.
Yeah. So
money and power, Randy.
What do you think will happen? Do you think that, especially if Donald Trump is on the ballot, will people just will they believe whatever propaganda, like we're in the middle of a war, we can't transfer presidents? Do you think that the American people will just say, oh, okay? Or do you think they'll finally rise up?
I just, to be honest, I don't know. I wish I did. I wish that was information I'd been given. But I don't know. I really do not know what people are going to do. I do believe, with everything that I've seen, that one way or the other, Obama's going to hold on to power, because the way that it's looking now, and again, we've got all of a sudden the United States has become the world police. Our FBI is everywhere overseas. Yeah. And now our military, our military's going to different places where Obama sends them for non-military duties. It's almost like they're being trained to be UNers, right?
Yes, exactly.
It would appear that Obama plans to run his quote-unquote kingdom from the United States.
You know, I have a friend, and I'm not going to, say who. I don't want to do this to her. She's not, political really like we are, but she's in the National Guard, and she's leaving. And Randy, I think you know who I'm referring as far as my friend goes.
Yeah.
And when her and I were having a conversation on the phone, she said, "You know what, Shalene, there's something kind of weird going on, and they're trying to keep me in the National Guard. There's no way." And she said they're doing something in January that doesn't seem very military-like. And she didn't really go into details, nor does she know that much because she's leaving. But she said, she goes, "I'm glad I'm getting out. Something doesn't seem right." And this is from somebody who isn't as open politically as we are, younger than we are. And so that's coming from her. That's coming from an insider who's seeing something.
And that's not even the function of the National Guard. The National Guard, in theory, is supposed to stay on U.S. soil and help with disasters, civil disobedience, and whatnot.
Absolutely.
They are not supposed to be deployed to foreign soil to die in some third world piss bucket. That just it really pisses me off, to put it quite frankly, that the National Guard's been put into that role because a lot of them are professional soldiers, but a lot of them aren't. They join for that bull crap, 2 weekends a month crap they swallowed on the TV commercial. And then all of a sudden, instead of helping with like the floods that are going on in South Carolina right now, no, they're getting sent to Afghanistan to die. Screw that.
Yeah.
Well, and they're being, and more of our military is being sent out of the country.
Yeah.
He's destroying most of the military, and he's sending what's left out of the country.
Yeah.
So
why?
We don't have
why is
protection
that?
here.
Pretty easy. I mean, hey, we only get one guess on what's going to happen, and it's the most logical. It's Occam's razor.
Right.
Because the country is supposed to be completely destroyed or transformed, if you will.
Yeah.
And when Obama sets up his, and I wrote a column back years ago, I think it was in 2010, that the United States would be transformed into an Islamic caliphate. This is what's happening.
Gosh.
Oh, yeah, well, this is what's happening into an Islamo-Nazi caliphate. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
That's what's happening now. That's why all the borders are open. And bear in mind, the FBI, who is now wholly owned by Obama Inc., has said that ISIS is in all 50 United States. All 50 of the United States now. ISIS is here.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. As many of these so-called
so it's like get
refugees,
out of the country while you can.
Yeah,
when Jeff Berwick was on the show, that was what he said. He said, "I recommend that those who can, Americans, leave the country." And he listed a few countries to go to, but some of us we're stuck here. There's nowhere for us to hide. Unfortunately, we just have to go by the grace of God and may His will be done.
Absolutely,
I'm up for a fight.
Yeah.
We gotta be.
But on that note, let's talk for a second about, and we're going to go into depth on this tomorrow, so I don't mean to go into depth on it today. But there is, in fact, you can even go to one of the progressive resources, Mother Jones, and see the almost triple increase of quote unquote mass shootings under Obama. Obviously, each time. I mean, and of course, that just
been writing about it for years. You're preaching to the choir.
Yes. So exactly. So we have this, anti-gun, and they use these operations so that they can then go use it as propaganda to take away our guns. Do you think they're going to succeed at disarming us?
No.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying no. Hell no.
Well, I hope not. But let me tell you something. My concern is this: Nazi Germany said the same. Well, prior to being Nazi, under the Weimar Republic in Germany, they all owned guns. I mean, the Germans were like the Swiss. I mean, you're almost like you're born with a gun, or you get one as soon as you can walk. But what happened was the Nazis came in and took over, and the Germans said, well, we're not going to let go of our guns and blah, 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 because when the Weimar, remember when the Parliament building was burned down and everything, and they blamed, I can't remember who they blamed. I think they blamed the conservatives there, too, for doing it, and it was Hitler who burned it down. And Hitler rose to power on that. And the people basically said, and he also, the economy was being destroyed. And so what occurred was the people said, do anything. We just want to get our economy back and this, that, and the other, but we won't give up our guns. And guess what happened when they started going door to door confiscating them? Because Obama's already hinted that he may go ahead and confiscate them anyway, because what Obama has said is, I don't think Americans should have the right to own guns.
Yes. Yeah. I actually have that quote.
Guns and religion.
Right. Even Karl Rove said he came out. Karl Rove. That's after the last one. After the one in South Carolina. Me either. But he came out and said we must repeal the Second Amendment, like he thinks that's constitutional.
Oh, I know. I heard that. And why Fox keeps him on kind of tells you where Fox has gone, doesn't it?
Right.
And Karl Rove is and has been a Nazi supporter.
Right. But we are, if we go by the numbers, there's more Americans than there were Germans at the time. More people own guns. So, do you think the militia? Do you think they'll rise up and stop it, or are we just roll over now?
Well, no, I don't think we should roll over. I think we should fight, and we're going to have to fight if we're to. Well, I unfortunately I think it's a fait accompli anyway, but I still think we need to fight because there are going to be those pockets, and there could still be large areas of this country that were free. I think the country as a whole, under the United States of America, is pretty much gone now. It's already gone. But I think that there are pockets that we can resurrect, but that would require having an absolute commitment to God and family to do that for God and family. And I don't know whether or not there are enough real Americans who care anymore willing to do it. I just don't know. I haven't seen a great deal of evidence of it lately, except for the Trump phenomenon, and I think that's very interesting.
Oh, and what about Texas? Is that a place people could maybe relocate to and keep?
I would love to see Texas secede. Right now, I don't think that they. But it's interesting because the movement to secede it's actually growing. I
read that just the other day. Yeah.
And what is so interesting is that I might not even. I've often said if things get too weird in uber liberal New Mexico, which isn't quite as uber liberal as it was when I first moved here, but I can always just jump across because the border is like a mile away.
Oh wow!
And the border of Texas. But what's interesting is that the county that I live in and the city in which I live used to be part of the old Texas Republic.
Oh, wow.
So if they go back to the true republic, then we would get to be Texans. And that's okay
great.
with me, because most people are more Texas here than they are New Mexico.
You know, it's interesting because Greg Abbott, I really like that man. I don't know how they haven't gotten to him
Terrific
yet, but
guy.
thank God, really terrific. And he even, from what I have read and understood, supports the secession of Texas. Have you heard that?
No. It's not, and he may in his heart of hearts, but he certainly hasn't exhibited that or said anything to that effect.
Okay. You know, wanted to go back just a little bit.
I personally don't think it's a great idea.
Oh, I do too. I absolutely like that idea. I wanted to go back because. Oh, go ahead, Randy.
I was just going to say, I think Washington, D.C. should be walled off, all the utilities cut, and nobody gets in or out, and the rest of the country carry on. Absolutely.
Remember those two movies that, what was it, Escape to New York and Escape to L.A.? Kurt Russell. Thank you, one of my favorites. Yeah, I think that that's what they ought to do to Washington, D.C., and then just dump all the rest of the criminals from the country in there. You know, because that's all they're all criminals, and you know that's the only real area in the country that is continuing to prosper now. It's on our money, and it's totally corrupt.
Yeah, all right around that area, like Northern Virginia and parts of Maryland, because we talked about that on the show. It was probably a couple of months ago now, but we did cover that, and it's real funny how that works, ain't it?
Yeah,
and I think it's a great idea, Randy. I think that they ought to wall it off and just dump everybody in there and just take them in by helicopter and let the criminals parachute in. You don't even have to open up any, because you don't want to open up the gates, just in case they escape.
Yeah.
You probably don't want any gates there,
No, they don't. That's the gates of hell, as I have said before. But anyway, I wanted to go back a little bit because something that ever since I've been, really awake politically, before I was awake politically growing up, I liked Ronald Reagan. And, I lived at home. I was a kid. Partly because I knew my grandfather had been friends with him. They were both radio actors. So, maybe that was part of it, some family connections. So,
and he's a cousin of mine, by the way.
Oh, that's so cool.
I discovered this in doing my great grandmother on my mother's side was a Reagan.
Oh, see, 6 degrees of separation between us there. But I want to go back because since I've been awake politically, a lot of people, in the Liberty Movement has said, oh, no, Shalene, you're wrong about him. He was part of the New World Order. And I have seen a photo of him sitting at the Bohemian Grove campground, but I have a really hard time believing he was part of it. But I've seen evidence on both sides. So you're a great investigative journalist. So what do you have to say about it? Because I really want to know. Reagan
did not, to my knowledge, Reagan did not, he may have, I don't know if he attended it once at that Bohemian Grove, but the information that I have and what I've been able to uncover is he would not join either the CFR, Bohemian Grove, or any of those things, but he did send he would send one of his people there. Just to see, just so that they could report back to him. So I'm not sure what photo there might be. I don't know if it's photoshopped, if he was added in after the fact. I don't know. I haven't seen any of those photos.
What do you think about this hypothesis, Cher? Reagan, was, he was an outsider, and they tried to kill him and said, you're going to get in line or you're gone.
That's right.
He was basically the front man, and Mr. New World Order, ex-head of the CIA, was the guy who was actually calling all the shots behind the scenes. And
you're talking
Reagan
about Bush?
Bush.
Yeah, Bush, his VP, and he did not want Bush as his vice president.
Right, that I knew.
He couldn't stand him.
I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Reagan just seemed too much of a nice guy and with good intentions to want to be associated with the likes of old man Bush and the group of crooks he hangs around with and works for.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
I've often said that he didn't really have Alzheimer's, that I think they did something to him so he wouldn't talk. What are your thoughts on that?
Could be. And we'll never know.
No.
But and maybe they did something when he was hit, because he almost died.
Yeah.
He was very, very close to death, and most of the American people weren't aware of how close he was. And they almost got him, but miraculously, and I do mean miraculously, he survived. And the one thing that they really hated was that Reagan, almost every time he spoke, he brought up his love for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
And by golly, they did not like that at all. And the thing is, you can't serve two masters, and Reagan made it very clear to all of us that his master was God. And that's why all this other stuff that they talk about, I don't buy it.
Well, one of the things that they do talk about was, though, his wife being part of the occult with the astrology, and people have brought that up to try to prove to me that, no, here's the truth about Reagan. So what do you know about that?
Ron loved Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy was not really serious about, she was in her own way, she was concerned about Ron, and particularly after he had been shot. Mm-hmm. She wanted as much information. She wanted to go to psychics. She wanted to find out, just in case, what can we do? And she did not have that firm of a, from what I can ascertain, she didn't have that firm of a belief. In God.
Kind of like that. Okay.
And it was there, but it wasn't as pronounced as it was in President Reagan. Okay.
Yeah.
But Ron, he loved her very, very, very much. So, when you love somebody, you'll put up with some of the proclivities that they have.
Yeah,
and he smiled about it.
Yeah,
and all you can do is be yourself. And particularly if it's somebody you love and you know that person isn't going to change your mind. It wasn't like she was being satanic or anything. It was merely that she was wrong in searching that out. But apparently their love was so strong, and she was doing it for him. She didn't know what else to do at the time because she wasn't grounded.
Well, let me ask you this, since we're on that subject. In the 1980s, and last Tuesday, I dedicated like the entire show to it. How deeply involved do you think Reagan was with, the CIA drug dealing, gun running, the so-called war on drugs, and the prison for profit system they set up? Do you think that was all Bush's doing, and Reagan didn't know, or they said you just put on a suit and tie and go talk, and we'll handle all this?
No. Reagan was not the suit and tie, you go talk, because you're an actor. No. If you'll recall, he wrote the speeches that were written, and they used to say that his speechwriters did this. The man's so stupid and blah blah. No. Reagan wrote every single one of his speeches. His speechwriters were there to give him ideas, and that was all. But he would go back and rewrite if he didn't like the speech. If he didn't like the ideas, he would go back and just rewrite it, certain portions. And he did that with the most famous is the Berlin Wall. When he was tear down that wall, and he was told, "You will do not say that. We don't want that kind of you to be that strong," and so on. And Reagan just smiled and did his own thing. He smiled and nodded, and so they thought they were home free, right? They convinced him, not even close. If you have read that the Berlin Wall speech, that was phenomenal, and every single word of that was Ronald Reagan's.
Okay.
Well, what about the war
and
on
the gun
drugs
running?
And the gun, Iran Contra, why
Iran Contra was his, and he owned that, and he was it was an attempt to end communism and the Islamic threat coming in to Central and South America.
Okay.
That was what that was
sense.
about. That was the bottom line on that, because that was before most people realized there was an Islamic threat.
That makes sense.
Because we didn't, we were just little babies then. We didn't realize that there were all these really, really horrible people out there. Well, that was part of what was going on, because the Sandinistas had partnered with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
It's two Luciferian units partnering with one another. They partnered with Iran in the same way that Adolf Hitler partnered with the Grand Mufti of Turkey during World War II, because they both wanted to get rid of the Jews. They both worshiped the same being, and the same thing was true of the Sandinistas. And if you go all the way back in Marxism, Karl Marx, this is not a secular sort of religion. Marxism, no. It's Luciferian. If you will look at it, Karl Marx wrote love poems to Lucifer. You can look it up on the internet.
Oh, my God. Oh, I didn't
look
even
it up
know
on
that.
the internet.
Oh,
just Google Karl Marx Lucifer love poem.
Oh, wow, Cher. You guys
just
heard it
like
first
Saul
here.
Alinsky.
Wow.
Saul Alinsky dedicated his book his book Rules for Radicals to Lucifer, the first rebel. These are people are now, I think, beginning to awaken to this. This is not something where it's atheism. Communism is not atheism. Communism is worshiping Lucifer. That's how it was set up.
I just got chills. I don't know about you, Randy. And you know what? And I thought I was awake. Cher, this is why I'm glad you're here today, because I know you're telling a lot of our listeners items they didn't know, because Randy and I didn't even know. I mean, that just gave me chills. And I have read excerpts from Rules for Radicals. I tell people you have to read their information so you know what they're doing, and I overlooked that.
Look at the dedication page.
Oh, my God.
Dedication page. Saul Alinsky dedicates the book to Lucifer.
And see, this is something that both Hillary and Obama would know. They were students of his, especially Hillary.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. They worship the other guy. I call him the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy.
And he's the really sicky, and it's Lucifer, pure and simple, and that's the one that they're worshiping. And I am saying they hold ceremonies. You don't do this. You don't. Their worship is of Lucifer, of and for Lucifer. And when I'm talking about the people in the White House who have reported on, and several of them very anonymously, have pointed on hearing sounds that sounded like quote unquote Gregorian chants coming from the. There you go, and that's what's going on.
Oh, my God.
And see, what's happened is, there's really no way that this country can survive the way it is now.
No,
there's just no way. It can't survive because here's the deal. We not only have a White House that now has active Luciferians in it and running the country. It can't survive that way. But did you perchance happen to see what happened when Pope Francis visited the 9/11 memorial and gave his convocation?
No, I couldn't watch it. I just think he's not. Yeah,
he is. I think he's the false prophet personally, and I think he is Petrus Romanus. That was prophesied by Saint Malachi in the 12th century. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with that, right?
No, I'm not actually. No.
Oh, okay. Well, he had talked about the last pope, and Saint Malachi was an Irish pope. And he had, no, not pope, I'm sorry. He was an Irish priest. And he had he prophesied all of the other popes that would come after up until the end of the Catholic Church. He said the Catholic Church will end, it will end when a satanic entity becomes the pope. Well, he predicted every single, and you can look it up. It's Saint Malachi with a Y. I'm not talking about Father Malachi Martin.
I was going to say
that's a totally different guy. Has nothing to do. He's contemporary. He died some years ago, but he was a contemporary. I'm talking about the Father. It was Father Malachi with a Y, who was a 12th century Irish priest. And he was sainted because of miracles that happened, which is typically what the Catholic Church does. You know, they prove a bunch of miracles, and then you get to be a saint. So, but in any event, every single pope that he predicted would come in from the order and the time frame and everything else, and how they would, if they were killed in office or they died, whatever. Everything has been 100% accurate.
Oh my gosh! And so he predicted
and
that
the last
guy...
pope up to Benedict, he said it would be from the Benedictine order, and he would not complete his term. So we didn't know at that point whether he was going to die or not. But as we know, Benedict resigned, which had never happened before in the history of the papacy. And he said the last pope will be working with Satan, and he called him Petrus Romanus. Okay, and that doesn't mean that would be the name that he took as pope, but he called him that to identify him. Well, here's something that's kind of interesting. We know that Pope Francis is from Argentina. That's they're talking about, and of course it was during the Perón era and so on that he grew up, and Evita and Juan Perón and all that kind of thing. It's just they destroyed the country the way that Obama's destroying it now, and it's really interesting. The analogies between the two of them, the similarities also. But what happened is that he grew up in Argentina, but guess where his family is from? Where they moved from? They moved from Rome. And guess what his father's name is? Peter.
Peter. Oh,
Peter, which would be Petrus. And guess what happens in Catholic families? And I know because I was raised Catholic, kind of, sort of, and I left the church a long time ago. Because I thought, well, I won't go into it, but anyway, it was just wrong. But in any event, what happens typically is that particularly in Catholicism, and it happens with in other lineages also, the name of your firstborn son is always the name of the father. That's just what happens. Okay, I know because it happened in my family.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
that would put him as Peter.
As his, oh, my
goodness. And he was the firstborn son.
Yes.
I think he's the only son in the family. But, hey, but...
Wow.
And I think that he dropped the name Peter, but it's tradition. It's not only traditional, I think it's almost required in Catholic families. You just have to do that. That's the way it goes. But but he called him Petrus Romanus. He said he indicated that he would be the false prophet. He said that this particular pope would destroy the Catholic Church. and lead the people down the path to Satan.
Well, and what's interesting, and we always like to say on this show, connecting the dots for liberty, what's interesting is that he is now incorporating global warming into the Catholicism.
And
in fact,
he's a socialist.
Right.
How can you be a socialist pope?
Right.
It's crazy. And what happened, I just one more thing before my little mind goes away. When they did have that convocation at the 9/11 memorial, there were 2 religious men who shared equal status on stage. One was a rabbi, a reformed rabbi, right? Which means uber liberal, and the other was an imam.
Yeah, I did read this.
So what that is doing is that is putting what the United States has effectively done. They are after 9/11, which was our Babylon moment, as I don't know if you read anything or heard what Rabbi Khan has to say in the Harbinger.
Right.
If you don't, watch. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I do. I like watching him. He's how I learned about the Shemitah.
Shemitah, yeah. Oh, yeah, every 7 years, yeah.
Right.
And but he is fabulous. What a great man.
He really is. I like watching him, and he's entertaining.
And he's a Messianic Jew, which makes it even better.
Right, exactly.
But he knows Yeshua is Messiah, which is so cool. But the thing is that that he spoke of everything that happened. It is the similarities as to what happened with the destruction of Babylon and 9/11 were beyond uncanny, including a stake that went through the only sycamore tree that existed in New York City. And went through the heart of the tree, that is in the Bible. It talks about the same thing happened in old Babylon. Right.
You
know, and now we have on stage in New York Satan and God being shown as equal status. Can we really survive this?
No, we cannot. And, that makes a lot of sense because, as you know, we discussed this during my campaign, I am a truther. And I think that it was just filled with lies, 9/11. That makes sense. And even though I do follow this rabbi, I didn't really put all these pieces together until you just said it. It was, for them, a religious ceremony that they needed to complete. So whatever anybody wants to believe, I know a lot of people who listen to us are not truthers, but I'm telling you from a biblical point of view and based on what you just said, they needed that ceremony. So, people need to wake up. And another thing that goes with all of this, Sher, is Planned Parenthood. The fact that we're funding this, we the people, we're funding this. And the fact that they just funded it, said, no, we're including this, to me, that was so Luciferian. It said a lot. I'm like,
it is.
Where those baby hearts are.
It's like Moloch
they're
worship.
going to their ceremonies. Yeah.
This is what used to happen way back when they were worshiping Moloch.
Yeah.
They'd take they were killing the infants. They were throwing them into the fire.
Right. And they wanted to.
I mean, this is so satanic. The way that the country has gone. I thank God finally. I can't imagine. He's been so merciful and patient with this country for so long as it's gone down this horrible pagan Luciferian road. I can't see. There's no way. Particularly after that ceremony that I saw, I said, Lord, boy. I said, you are the most patient being I can ever imagine, with these people. And I'm starting to speak, as if I'm not human anymore because I don't want to be. I mean? It's just like, just let me come back home because these people are insane.
I've said it on the show. I don't feel like I belong here anymore. I don't want to be part of this world. You've got the whole 2030 agenda. You have what happened in 9/11. You have this Pope. You've got Obama. You've got Planned Parenthood. You have the same-sex, whole situation and that agenda.
You've got the military now condoning U.S. military condoning child rape in Afghanistan.
Right, and then of course you've got the teaching of Islam via Common Core in the public school system.
Yep.
So really, there is not much more. But the one thing that because we like to encourage Christians. If you're listening, we don't want you to get discouraged, because remember, God said if there was even just a couple of people that still believed in Him, we would be saved, and we have to go by. All of the Word of God is truthful and faithful, and so as long as we don't turn back, we will not be a pillar of salt. We don't want to be left behind either. Doesn't mean we won't be persecuted, put to death. That we should just expect to happen. So, Sherry, I didn't mean to keep you this long.
That's okay. No, I've enjoyed this thoroughly, and it's
just fascinating.
There is such a need to get this out to people who need to hear it, and what we tried to do, and what I tried to do, and I know what you and Randy try to do, is to get the word out. Right. And this is what we're supposed to do. This is part of evangelizing, if you will. I'm not here preaching. I'm simply saying, look, guys, here, if this, and this occurs, then what is the logical conclusion to that? Right. And it's just people thinking. And right now in our school system that used to be the envy of the world, it's gone. I mean, that left a long time ago. But we used to teach logic, how to think. And now people don't have any idea how to think. They're chaotic. Their minds have become chaotic. And guess what? Chaos belongs to Satan. God is order. God is order and tranquility and joy and total joy. Satan is just the opposite. And by the way, these beings actually existed. This is not just some ideological thought process that I'm going through. These were and are real beings.
And I think people have a really, really hard time believing any of this, but like Santa's show, if you're a follower of Christ, we know not everybody who listens to the show is. Just open up your Bibles and read. I read every day. I have my oldest son reading every day because I agree with you and Billy Graham. We are definitely in the end zone of end time. Yep. And although we're not supposed to predict, and you pretty much already answered the question a little bit earlier, but if it's not Obama, or even the Pope, do you believe the Antichrist is born, and if it hasn't been revealed yet, will be here soon?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, and Obama's been auditioning, and you know what? I really think he's got the job.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think, Randy?
Well, we've had guests on that, and I guess it's how you look at it. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer by any stretch, or he's a really good actor at not being or projecting the image of being the sharpest knife in the drawer. But just all the things that he has done and his administration has done, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, pretty much, the evidence is there. It's just one has to look at it with, from an objective, awake sense, and what y'all have talked about, and I've mentioned this before. some guys I grew up with that lived down the street from my mom's house, they've been religious their entire lives, and they used to talk about spiritual eyes. When your spiritual eyes are open, you see all the demons around you. And I think that our spiritual eyes are open, and we see the demons, and they're on TV and on pretty much every day. And they wear suits and ties, so it's pretty hard to refute what you're saying, because and I'm not going to, because I'm hip to where y'all are coming from on that. I'm no saint, and I'm not the most religious person in the world, but my eyes are open, and I see what's going on. And none of us can speak for God and answer the question, but this is one that I in my daily complaint to him, because all he hears from me is complaining, and I'm sure he's tired of it. But
no, he hears that same thing from me, and I know he's got to be tired of it, because I get sick of it.
Yeah, well,
but what I always say, the only thing we haven't seen yet is the bullet to the head and him surviving. That really is that, and I've gone back and forth.
If that's what it means,
Right.
Yeah,
I've gone back and forth.
It could be anything.
I've gone to yes, he is, because you just look at his mysterious birth, to no, he's the one paving the way. I don't know. I go back and forth with it, but certainly he's not working for God. And
not at all.
Fact. That is a fact.
Well,
yeah.
And we don't have a whole lot of time.
No.
But I wanted to, and I hate to revisit something we've already discussed, but it's as far as Jade Helm and it not really being over, and the foreign troops still being on our soil. Do any of your sources have like documented proof, visual proof that we could present to the world to say, hey, this ain't over just because the TV said, well, it's over, and all you people that were all uptight about it, you're all a bunch of kooks. Do you have the smoking gun hardcore proof that we could present on our website and to say, hey, you thought that was over? No, it's not over. Here, check this out.
It's almost impossible to do it, and the short answer is no. But it's let me explain. It's almost impossible to do it because the people who are in Jade Helm are U.S. citizens, right?
Right.
And
supposedly.
Well, as far as we know, they're Army. So that their being here would not be. It's unusual that they would have these training exercises and so on. But these other people who have gone into certain areas to infiltrate and find out who the problem people are and all that kind of thing, these are people who live here. These are people who have a background in one of the states. They grew up or went to school and all this kind of thing. So it's it's like saying can you show us where the spies are in the CIA? And the answer here is no, I can't show you, but I'll be willing to bet you Russia knows where all of our spies are.
No, of course they do.
But and as far as the troops being here, they're still reporting. They're in Texas. There are a lot of them in Texas, and they're spread out throughout the United States. But here's the deal. A lot of people are coming into this country from we've gotten used to foreign nationals coming in with a different accent.
No, multicultural.
And so they come in and just set up shop, and then they may be the select troops in Russia who are here, but they have a cover. They set them up in business. So, it's when you've got the entire government is working against the American people. See, that's one thing that Ben Franklin had said, and others have said it too. You can withstand, a nation can withstand, fighting an enemy from without the country. But if it's from within and it's your government, no way.
Yeah. See the Declaration of Independence. like that means anything anymore.
Right.
Doesn't.
But I see a lot of people saying, "Hey, let's do what the Declaration of Independence says." But I don't know if that will ever happen or not. So Cher, changing real quick before we go here, the Liberal's Guide to Conservatives. Your book. Was it ever released?
Nope, never got it. Never really got it going. But right now, I'm considering another project, and hopefully, be able to let you know about that within the next couple of months.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Oh, fantastic. Cher, how can people, tell people where they can read you, how they can get in touch with you, that your website, that sort of information.
Absolutely. I can be read on Canada Free Press, Renew America, barbwire.com, Gulag Bound, and just about any, and multiple other ones on the net. And my email is up there on Canada Free Press and Renew America, or you can reach me at Sher Zieve, that's Cher with an S, Zieve, Z-I-E-V, Victor E, at Reagan.com.
Oh, fantastic. Cher, I could have kept, if this show was 3 hours, I could have kept you for
as I've said to you before, I never have a problem talking. It's shutting me up that's the issue.
No, I don't want to ever shut you up. Any final words that you have?
All I can say is, for those who are listening, we are all in this together, whether you like it or not. So, let's we need to start joining together, and you've got to find like-minded people in your neighborhoods who actually want to survive and want to survive as a free people. If you don't, then you're dead anyway.
Yeah, we absolutely agree with you. Cher, we didn't mean to monopolize your time this much. We so appreciate the 2 hours that you spent with us, and you have an open door invitation. I mean that. We will obviously be keeping in touch more and more now that I've got your information, and this time I actually also wrote it on paper. So that if
good
should happen,
that's what we're learning from the Obama gov. It's to go backwards. Start writing things down. So listen, you two have been an absolute treat, and I thank you very much for this opportunity. You've been great.
It was an honor. It was an honor. Thank you so much.
Our treat. All right, Cher.
Thank you guys.
Have a blessed night.
You too, and God bless both of you.
God bless you too.
Bye.
Oh, wow. I have chills, Randy. I don't know about you. I'm serious. I thought I was really awake. Yes, again. I learned information tonight that after Cher shared it with us, I saw it. I went, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? It was right before my eyes.
Yeah,
so,
like the Karl Marx thing. I would have never guessed that in a million years, and I had to go look for the information.
I'm going to look.
Yeah,
I
posted some links on Facebook already because I was like, we got to get this out right now.
Oh my gosh, no, seriously, I'm actually a bit shook up. But that's good. That means that I'm awake even further. Now I know more about what to pray about and how serious it really is, because, when we get into our Music Fridays, I try to forget it all. I really do, because I'm thinking I can't take much more. But I realize just how much we need to also still enjoy life, and we have to be encouraged, and we have God on our side, but also how we cannot give up, because we are really that darn close here in the end game, end days, call it whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Again, I have chills for today. Randy, this is one for you too. I hate to ask you that, but this is definitely one. We need to get this out as much as possible. This is one of those crucial bits of information that I think we must share this with everybody.
Right.
So again, this has been the Wake Up Mission Show. an underground network connecting the dots for liberty. We hope you are able to be with us the full 2 hours tomorrow. We will catch up on all the news we didn't get to today. Plus, we will be doing our Truth Tuesday, and it will be false flag operations, which now, Randy, is absolutely the perfect subject after today's interview. So everybody have a great evening, everyone. And again, thank you to Sher Zieve. We're out of here until tomorrow.
Thank you for spending your time with us on the Wake Up Mission Show.